From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Anne Waodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, President Bola Tinubu congratulates winners of Saturday's by-elections across 13 states, commends INEC for a hitch-free exercise. Residents of Nanga in Anambra State celebrate All Progressives Grand Alliance victory in Saturday's by-election in the state. Nigerian Immigration Services, in collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, begin deportation of foreign nationals recently convicted of cybercrime. And Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomes U.S. historic decision to offer Ukraine security guarantees in the event of a peace deal with Russia. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced results for Saturday's by-elections in 16 constituencies across 12 states of the Federation. A breakdown of the results show that All Progressives Congress, the APC, won in 12 constituencies, the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, won in 2, while the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, won in 1, and the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, won in 1. But the APC won in Adamawa, Edo, Kano, Kogi, Niger, Ogun, Taraba, Jigawa, Kaduna states. The PDP won in Oyo State, while the All Progressives Grand Alliance won in Anambra South Senatorial District and Onitsha North State constituency in Anambra State. We can now give you a further breakdown of that result, starting from Northern Region, where the All Progressives Congress, the APC, swept the elections across Kaduna, Kano, Taraba, Adamawa, and Niger State, while the All Progressives Congress also coasted home in victory in the election conducted in Zamfara State before it was declared inconclusive by INEC. Officials of the New Nigeria People's Party in Kano State, however, rejected the outcome of their own election on the ground that INEC acted outside its powers by declaring the results at its headquarters in Kano instead of doing the same at the Constituency Collation Center.
From 6 states across the north, voters turned up in their numbers to exercise their civic rights in the by-elections conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission. In the result for Chukwum Kajuru Federal Constituency election, APC's candidate, Felix Bagudu, polled a total of 34,580 votes to defeat the PDP candidate who scored 11,491 votes to come second, while the party also swept the 2 Kaduna State by-elections for Zaria Kewaye and Basawa constituency, just as it did in Taraba State.
That Joseph Fidelis Bagudo of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared winner and is returned elected.
I declare that Shitu Abner of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared winner and returned elected.
The outcome of the polls is the same in Kano and Adamawa states as the All Progressives Congress is declared the winner.
Having satisfied the requirement of the law, Musa Misa is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
From Kano to Niger State, the All Progressives Congress equally posted impressive results as announced by the returning officer. The New Nigeria People's Party is, however, contesting the outcome of the polls in Kano as it accuses INEC of acting beyond its powers.
The party wished to inform the general public that the manipulation attested against the candidate Ifenyawagari run election cannot be condoned. Therefore, the party rejected the election result of Ifenyawagari, which was declared at the INEC headquarters in Kano, while cancelling the 10 polling units that the appeal court nullified the order for a fresh election.
Voters in Zamfara State will, however, expect a new date to exercise their civic rights, as the Independent National Electoral Commission declared the Kaura Namuda South constituency by-election inconclusive.
The differences between the leading party and the first runner-up is 1,662, while the number of PVC collected in those council area is 3,265. This election will not be declared. We have to go for supplementary election. It's therefore declared inconclusive.
The returning officer, Professor Lawal Saidu of the Federal University Gusau, announced the decision, explaining that the margin between the leading party and the runner-up was less than the total number of permanent voter cards collected in polling units where the election was cancelled.
And we'll be bringing you details from results from the southern region of the country in the course of the bulletin. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated all winners of Saturday's by-elections in 16 constituencies across 12 states of the Federation. The president also commended the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for the hitch-free elections, mostly devoid of violence, according to the statement by the spokesman, Bayo Ononuga. President Tinubu also congratulated the new APC National Chairman, Professor Nentawe Yilwata, for the first victory recorded under his leadership. The congratulatory message also extended to the governors of the APC and other leaders in the party on the success of the by-elections. He also commended all political parties and candidates who participated in the election, enjoining them to continue to be guided by the spirit of sportsmanship, fair contest, and magnanimity, which are enablers of enduring democracy. Let's head to Anambra State now, where it was a day of joy and excitement in Kanka community in Orumba North local government area of the state, as over 10,000 people tripped out at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church field in Nwago, Nanka, to receive Governor Chukwuma Soludo in a mass rally and collapsing of structure of the Okudili Ezenwankwo movement. Describing the event as a show of acceptance of APGA as a political movement in Anambra State, he welcomed Mr. Ezenwankwo home and used the opportunity to commend Nanka people for voting overwhelmingly for APGA in the Anambra South senatorial by-election.
It is the mega rally and collapsing structure for Anambra State's Governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, by the Okudili Ezenwankwo movement at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church field, Nkwagu, Nanka, in Orumba North local government area. The governor, upon entering the field, receives a resounding welcome from the crowd for his massive developmental strides in the community, as goodwill messages from stakeholders all point to the governor's efforts in transforming Anambra State.
Mr. Governor, you spearheaded the jinx that we broke yesterday. And for the first time, we made a senator of APGA extraction in Anambra South. So, Mr. Governor, we thank you for all the support. You are our national leader. You are the leader of the progressives in Anambra State.
Collapsing his structure for Governor Chukwuma Soludo, Mr. Okudili Ezenwankwo, a former member of the House of Representatives for Orumba North and South Federal Constituency, gives the governor the assurances that he no longer has any opposition, as the national chairman of APGA, Mr. Sly Ezeokenwa, notes the jinx-breaking event of the Anambra South senatorial by-election, noting that Governor Soludo's leadership is not in doubt.
Your Excellency, let me assure you, on behalf of all my support groups and all the structure of Okudili Ezenwankwo Ewo Brigade, that our support for our government and administration will be total and unshakable. What we are doing here today is to showcase capacity. We will give you our unalloyed and unwavering support. Support so that you will continue. We are not afraid of you because we know what you are doing. You are developing all sectors simultaneously. In terms of the security of lives and property, Your Excellency, let me be sincere to myself and everybody here. You are doing well.
The atmosphere becomes charged as the governor mounts the stage and clearly announces that APGA is home and the movement, and calls on electorates to come out in their numbers for the November 8th governorship elections.
We'll cast one man, one vote. We're coming to November. It is a mass movement, and we will show that in November. Our target is 90-95% of the votes in November.
The governor joyfully extends felicitations to President Bola Tinubu, the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the security agencies and all the stakeholders that made the senatorial by-election successful, as he urges the people of Nanka to keep the faith as Anambra is on the rise and no one will be left behind.
The Director General of the Bureau of Public Procurement, Adebowale Adedokun, believes that the Bureau is curbing the menace where civil servants can award contracts to themselves. Reacting to the position of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, that many abandoned estates in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, are owned by civil servants. The Director General says reforms affected by the Bureau has changed in the game in the procurement sector.
Who is our primary lead on ensuring that contractors the real owners are known? CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. They have the beneficiary ownership register where bidders, any company must show who is the true owner of that company. That's one. So how bidders, when contracts are being owned by civil servants, it has reduced. I'm not saying it didn't happen. Remember what the FC chairman said was that a lot of those things are owned by civil servants. They're empirical, he has empirical information to that. But don't forget, he also said we will be going out to investigate, to really confirm all this. But what has happened in the past is what BPP or the Act is trying to cure. That sickness where people can just, civil servants or whoever can just award contract to themselves.
With the system you have in place.
Absolutely. You know, with all sense of humility, I think even the civil servants today have realized that the game has changed. Why am I saying that? My colleagues, we have what I call price intelligence units. I have Act 2 under ICPC, a unit in our office. What should we be doing, or what have we been doing? We can pick randomly. So let me not say we'll do 100%. We just do random sampling. We can't do everyone. But we're also relying on whistleblowers.
In part two, after the break, Nigerian Immigration Service, in collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, began deportation of foreign nationals recently convicted of cybercrime. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. President Tinubu congratulates winners of Saturday's by-elections across 13 states, commends INEC for hitch-free exercise. Residents of Nanga in Anambra State celebrate All Progressives Grand Alliance's victory in Saturday's by-election in the state. Nigerian Immigration Service, in collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, began deportation of foreign nationals recently convicted of cybercrime. And Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomes U.S. historic decision to offer Ukraine security guarantees in the event of a peace deal with Russia. It's about 5 months since President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers State, suspending Governor Siminalayi Fubara along with members of the House of Assembly and appointing a sole administrator, Ibok Ete-Ibas, to steer the affairs of the state. In this report, our correspondent Deborah Balama takes a look at his stewardship so far and what Rivers people and stakeholders think about his administration.
The political crisis, which now appears to have eased, began brewing in October last year. Impeachment moves against Governor Siminalayi Fubara, the bombing of the State House of Assembly complex, and the emergence of parallel assemblies deepened tensions. A nullified budget, unresolved disputes, banter between the executive and the legislative arms, the dissolution of the 23 local government council chairmen by the court, and violent attacks on vital oil facilities worsened the situation. By March 18, 2025, President Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers State, suspending the governor and members of the State House of Assembly for 6 months. Then appointed retired military officer Ibok Ete-Ibas as sole administrator.
It has become inevitably compelling for me to invoke the provision of the Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State with effect from today, 18th March, year 2025, and I so do.
Since then, the president has directly supervised the sole administrator's activities, while the National Assembly assumed legislative duties and inaugurated an ad hoc committee on emergency rule to ensure checks and balances, including work on the 2025 Rivers State Appropriation Bill, which is still in process. 1 month after resumption, the sole administrator appointed 23 sole administrators to oversee the LGAs, pending the conduct of elections. He also changed the leadership of several boards and commissions, including RESEC, Primary Healthcare Board and schools, amongst others. How has Ibok Ete-Ibas' administration fared operating without the passage of the 2025 Appropriation Bill? While hosting the National Assembly Ad hoc Committee on Emergency Rule and Implementation, recently, the sole administrator gave an account of his stewardship.
I recognize that peace and progress are impossible without political stability. That is why we embarked on broad-based consultations across all political divides, reaching out to stakeholders regardless of affiliation to reduce tension and create an environment where dialogue can replace confrontation. We also had direct engagements with key political stakeholders in the state. All engagements have been frank, inclusive, and productive.
The residents remain divided about his performance.
Returning democracy, ensuring of security, workers' salary and welfare. Under the financial autonomy, you can spend 6 months, by Rivers State law, you can spend 6 months of the budget, 30% of the budget within the 6 months period. And that will cover budget. That is what he's been doing. And I'm sure that Ibas, as a retired military officer who is conscious, do not want to fall foul of the law. So he has to assiduously follow the rules as they are.
In Rivers State, that the Constitution has been violated, the rights of Rivers people have been violated, the right of the governor has been violated, the right of the House of Assembly members has been violated. Even the right, my right as a voter who voted for a governor and not a sole administrator has been violated.
However, the civil society organizations laud his efforts in keeping the peace.
Based on the marching order to restore parity, order, and stability, to an extent, he has done that. Because now we don't wake up to the news that one faction is threatening this, some groups are going to be doing this. Now we are having, again, some semblances of calm in Rivers State.
Residents also noted a relative calm in the political climate, but believe some issues which concerns project continuation still needs to be addressed.
It's just like normality, just like as it was.
He's trying his best, but in a real sense, the way the state is now is not in a good condition. And I'm only just praying for his time to just elapse and for him to just go.
For economist and academic Dr. Debbie Wiado, a 6-month stay without a democratically elected government may have adverse effects on investment.
The impact of it on the economy is that it strikes in fear. And that affects the mentality of the investor. Investors always have fear because they're using real money.
While some Rivers people are very okay with the governance style of the sole administrator, others differ with this thought line. And so many of their complaints include that projects are being neglected, especially the sanitary condition of Rivers State. Right behind me is an example of what I'm talking about. Litters all over the metropolis. It is clear that Rivers people are patient for the 6 months to elapse. But I can see the eagerness when they spoke to me that they want to see the elected government come back into office. Until then, we'll keep on tracking on the activities, and only time can tell how the events will play out. From Port Harcourt, the River State capital, Deborah Balama, Channels Television News.
Let's now bring you more results from the by-elections that were held in the southern region of the country. There were, however, a mixed bag of feelings as the All Progressives Grand Alliance, the All Progressives Congress, and the People's Democratic Party all recorded wins in some states.
In the southern state of Edo, Ogun, Oyo, and Anambra, it was a keenly contested race, with by-elections covering 2 senatorial districts in Anambra and Edo states, federal constituencies in Edo, Ogun, and Oyo states, and state constituencies in Anambra state. The vacancies followed the resignation or death of 7 members of the national and state assemblies. The governor of Ogun State, Akpo Abiodun, is excited over the latest victory of the All Progressives Congress in Remo Federal Constituency, where the party's candidate, Ayola Elegbeji, emerged the winner after polling 41,237 votes against her closest rival, Bola Oluwole of the People's Democratic Party, who recorded 14,324 votes.
Today, we gather not just to celebrate victory at the polls, but to reflect on the journey that brought us here and to acknowledge the grace of God that crowned our efforts with success. The just completed by-election in Ikene, Shagamu, and Remo North Federal Constituency has written a new chapter in our democratic story. The victory did not come by chance. It is the result of dedication, commitment, teamwork, and absolute trust in God.
And in Oyo State, the Independent Electoral Commission declares the People's Democratic Party's candidate, Honorable Folajimi Oyekunle, as winner of the Ibadan North by-election. According to INEC returning officer Professor Abiodun Oluwadari, Oyekunle polled 18,404 to beat the candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Adewale Olatunji, who polled 8,312 votes. In Nnewi, Anambra State, the returning officer for INEC, Professor Frank Ojiako, declares the candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Emmanuel Nwachukwu, as the winner of the South Senatorial seat. The election has come and gone. While the winners prepare for their swearing in, those in contest of the result will warm up to file their petitions with the Election Petition Tribunals.
The Nigerian Immigration Service, in collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, has begun the deportation of some of the foreign nationals recently convicted by the court following their arrest for cyber terrorism and Ponzi scheme offenses. 42 out of 192 Chinese and Filipino nationals convicted by the Federal High Court, Lagos, were deported to their home countries today. The first batch of deportees left Nigeria at about 2 p.m. local time, and the deportees are part of a larger group of 759 persons arrested by the EFCC during a major raid on December the 10th, 2024 at Oyin-Jolayemi Street on Victoria Island, Lagos. The Commission has confirmed that others earlier convicted by the court will depart Nigeria, and that will happen tomorrow, Monday, and on Tuesday, and they will be airlifted to their home countries, as all the convicts have all been handed over to the Nigerian Immigration Service for deportation. And according to the EFCC, which prosecuted the cases, a total of 192 foreigners comprising Chinese and Filipinos were convicted in connection with this scam. In part two, after the break, police rescue kidnapped victims, arrest suspects in Delta and Kaduna states. Please join us again. Welcome back. Earlier this week, the Nigerian government confirmed that the country's average daily crude oil production is now 1.7 million barrels per day. And according to the Chief Executive Officer of the NUPRC, Benga Komolafe, the rise in crude oil output is driven by reactivation of dormant fields, faster regulatory approvals, efficiency across the upstream sector, and the actions taken by its security agencies. It says the next goal is now to work towards achieving a production of 2.5 million barrels per day. So tonight, Babajide Ogunsanwo, who's the founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's chief data analyst, is here to look beyond these headlines and share more insight about Nigeria's crude oil production facts. Thank you very much, Babajide Ogunsanwo, for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening.
First, how much is crude oil in Nigeria? I mean, how much is crude oil, how much of it is Nigeria producing at the moment? And is there any alternative fact when we look at the figures from the government?
There are two ways to look at this. We have the facts from OPEC last year's facts, and we have the facts that you just mentioned from the NUPRC, who is responsible for measuring crude oil production. And if we go by what OPEC said last year, Nigeria, as of 2024, OPEC's real data shows that we produced an average of 1.35 million barrels per day. Now we're at 1.7 million barrels per day. And this is we've just barely gone into the third quarter. That's about a 26% increase from last year. And so that is a lot of good news, and that is very impressive. And after this sort of performance, we've seen the statement, and if we take a look at the statement made by the Chief Executive Officer of the NUPRC about how this was possible, his position is Nigeria's oil and gas potential has often been underestimated. Under the bold decisions of President Tinubu, new horizons are opening. With the NUPRC's dynamic leadership, we are charting higher ground, making Nigeria not only a hub for profit, but also a beacon for sustainable energy investment. And so the Chief Executive Officer has, in his own words, explained how we've been able to grow our crude oil production volumes from 1.35 million barrels last year to what it is today, 1.7 million barrels. Good news. But beyond the good news, Anne, there is some bad news. And if we take a look at our crude oil production volumes since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, if we look at how the chart has gone since 1999, the bad news is, yes, we've made giant strides compared to last year when we were at 1.35 million barrels. But the fact shows that a quarter of a century ago, when we came into the Fourth Republic, 1999, Nigeria was producing 1.7 million barrels per day. So in simple terms, we are back to where we were in 1999. So yes, we are at 1.7, better than what it was last year. Very impressive, good news. But compared to how we were and the position as at 1999, it's really bad news. 1.7 million barrels, 1999. 2.5 decades after, they're still at 1.7 million barrels. Bad news, Anne.
But it's now over 100 days since the group chief officer of the NNPC Limited, Bayo Julari, was appointed. Are there any financial reports to measure the situation at the NNPC? Any significant difference yet? And what should the NNPC do to sustain this upward trend in crude oil production? As you've said, there's more of good news than bad news.
Yeah, so we're waiting for the NNPC's interim media report. That is not yet out, but overall what we've seen is based on the sort of boardroom politics going on at the NNPC, especially at the leadership level. Overall media sentiment is more negative than it is positive. We've seen a lot more boardroom politics and power play going on within the NNPC than real actual work and synergy among the different units. And really there's a storm brewing beyond the boardroom politics in NNPC. The real issue, Anne, is going by the available statistics, in the last 5 years, yes, $38 billion of capital came into, foreign capital came into Nigeria. However, only 9% of this was foreign direct investment. And so we can see there's real danger ahead. Money is coming in, but short-term funds. And this is the same thing in the oil and gas sector. If we take a look at what exactly has happened within Nigeria's oil and gas sector in recent history, we clearly understand why the NNPC has to go beyond boardroom politics and focus on what is in front of us. 2016, foreign investment in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, $720 million. How much foreign investment came into Nigeria's oil and gas sector last year? Only $5 million. Just think about that for a minute. We've moved from $720 million in 2016 to only $5 million. And so the challenge is we clearly have to have and rethink our investment strategy and how to attract long-term capital into the oil and gas sector. And that should be the focus of the Bayo Ojulari-led NNPC, instead of all the media fights we currently seeing, and clearly a lot of uncoordinated things going on.
Yeah, we've seen the target by the CEO of NUPRC saying that the production target is 2.5 million, coming from 1.7 million. How feasible do you think this is, quickly before we wrap up?
So there are two ways to look at this. We moved from 1.35 to 1.7, that's about 26%. If we want to move from 1.7 to 2.5, that's about 46%. So, you know, years ago, before my father, before he passed, he gave me a book by Clement Stone, W. Clement Stone, that said, if you aim for the moon, even if you miss, you might hit the star. And so I think what the NUPRC is trying to do is aim for the moon and clearly see what will happen. But clearly, there's some improvement based on the report from OPEC, especially looking at our oil rig count. And if we quickly take a look at why we perhaps should end with the good news, looking at our oil rig count, we see that security agencies have created some stability. Nigeria's oil rig count, based on OPEC's report, shows that as of last year, 31, look at where we were coming from, 23, 2021, 27 in 2022, and 28 in 2023. So positive news from our oil rig count because there's a lot more stability. And again, the Chief of Defense Staff, who is heading a lot of the operations going on, has also made a statement based on what he feels will be the future, especially when it comes to crude oil production. And in his own words, he said, production is growing, yet our mission is greater. Every pipeline must flow with oil, and every corner of our land must flow with wealth. True security is not only freedom from fear, it is the power of financial safety for every Nigerian. So, Anne, it all depends on which perspective you want to look at it. There's some good news, and there's really some news to worry about.
Thank you very much. Babajide Ogunsanwo, founder of Leadership by Data and, of course, Channels Television's chief data analyst. Thanks for your analysis on the news at 10 tonight.
The pleasure is all mine, Anne.
To other stories now, persons living with disabilities in Bauchi State are calling on the State House of Assembly to domesticate the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act of 2018. The group made the call when they visited the State Assembly to advocate the adoption of the national law, which they say will enhance inclusivity and provide broader protection for their rights and their well-being. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliyu, reports.
Representatives of persons with disabilities in Bauchi State are paying a visit to the Speaker of the State House of Assembly. Their visit aims at pushing for the domestication of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act 2018, a federal law designed to protect the rights of persons with disabilities. The Act provides for equal access to public facilities, social services, and the establishment of a national commission, while also prescribing penalties for discrimination and other violations.
Right Honorable Speaker, sir, this bill establishes a legal framework that protects the rights of over 15% of Bauchi State's population, estimated to be living with different forms of disabilities, in line with the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities.
For many in Bauchi, there is no independent commission with authority to enforce compliance. There is no dedicated, sustainable funding to support disability service. There are no clear penalties for discrimination that can stand in court.
Although Bauchi State enacted its own law in 2010, establishing an agency for persons with disabilities, the group says the state legislation lacks several key provisions found in the national law.
For example, we have only 3% in the state's law for employment, but at the national they have 5% for employment.
To support their advocacy, they present a draft bill to the Speaker. In response, the Speaker assures them of swift legislative action.
By Tuesday or Monday, I will call on the relevant committee, discuss with them, call the existing law, that is the law that established the agency in Bauchi State. We look at it and inshallah we will do the needful. We will do justice, not just the needful.
Currently, several states across the country are yet to domesticate the law, leaving many persons with disabilities without comprehensive legal protection. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
The Nigeria Police Force has announced the execution of 3 intelligence-led operations by tactical units in Kaduna and Delta states, leading to the arrest of 8 high-profile suspects and the recovery of assorted firearms, ammunition, and fabricated weapons. A statement signed by the Force Public Relations Officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says in Kaduna State, following the abduction of one Hussein Ibrahim from Jangi Di Tasha village in Jama local government area, operatives of the State Police Command launched a coordinated rescue operation which forced the bandits, the abductors, to abandon the victim in a nearby forest. The statement also explains that follow-up investigations led to the arrest of 4 suspects directly connected with this abduction, named Omar Yusuf Jabari and Mohammed, aka General, the Baya village, Ahmadu Nasiru of Gidanwaya, and Zakari Sali, and the recovery of 1 AK-47 rifle, 2 locally fabricated weapons. The statement further adds in Delta State operatives of the CP Special Assignment Team raided a kidnapping gang hideout along Ibuza Road, where one Shia DG Collins, also known as Smooth, aged 47, a notorious suspected kidnapper linked to the multiple abductions in Ogwashuku, Ibuzo, and Asaba axes, was also apprehended. We head to Kaduna State now, where the Governor Obasani has flagged off the construction of Karatudu Rumi Road in Chikun local government area of the state 13 years after it was abandoned by the past administrations. Performing the groundbreaking for the road construction, Governor Sani says the road will unlock new opportunities for commerce, improve security, and bring the long-awaited dignity and progress to the people of the area who have long suffered years of neglect and marginalization.
Romi, a semi-urban community in Chukwu local government area of Kaduna State, has over the years faced the challenges of poor road network and other infrastructure deficit. For the first time in 13 years, the community is witnessing government's presence and attention as Governor Obasani arrives to flag up the abandoned Karatudu Rumi Ring Road to the admiration of excited residents.
The road construction signify a new chapter in our journey towards progress and connectivity. This project will not only enhance transportation and the commons, but also improve the quality of our life and residents and commuters.
The Romi-Karatudu Road was awarded by the administration of late Patrick Yakoa, but was stalled after his death in 2012. The symbolic flag-off of the construction of the road is performed by Governor Ubasani, who reiterates its importance to the people of Karatudu and Unguwa Romi, just as he assures speedy completion.
The most important aspect of this road is predominantly urban poor. And as we made it clear when we came as a government, our priority is to extend infrastructure to every part of Kaduna State. And as we are speaking, we have already done the groundbreaking of over 82 roads, totaling about 792 kilometers. To date, we have commissioned about 32 roads. And as we are here today, this very important road for us is very, very critical for our development, for the economic prosperity of the people that live in this very important community, that is Romi and Karatudu. This very road was initiated by late Patrick Ibrahim Yakoa, the former governor of Kaduna State. May his soul rest in peace.
Governor Sani also emphasizes the importance of equitable distribution of infrastructure in achieving peace and unity, noting that his administration has so far awarded 83 road projects, with 31 already completed.
And now to the arts. The Curators Project, Humanizing Art, is a debut exhibition of contemporary artists right here in Lagos. The feature pieces of some contemporary young creatives, most of whom have not been showcased before. We'll see it on Art Review tonight.
It's the maiden exhibition of the Curators Project, which showcases emerging African artists exploring identity, vulnerability, and self-expression.
The Curators Project is an art agency that provides a nurturing environment designed specifically for African artists. We offer a freedom for artists to express themselves and their creativity and share their narratives and unique perspectives on life. In this safe space, which is the Curators Project, artists can explore their identities, experiences, and cultural heritage without constraints of societal expectations or commercial pressures.
The works of art displayed in Humanizing Art Part 1, the introduction, aims to reframe the perception of African art by highlighting the artist's full humanity.
She really surprised me, knowing it's not her field, and she was able to put all this together. I'm really surprised and I'm proud of her. And I know by the grace of God, she'll go places.
The goal is to move beyond stereotypes and market expectations to foster authentic, expansive expression.
In this safe space, which is the Curators Project, artists can explore their identities, experiences, and cultural heritage without constraints of societal expectations or commercial pressures. So by fostering an atmosphere of openness and support, the Curators Project encourages experimentation and innovation, allowing artists to push the boundaries of their work. It's a platform where diverses can emerge.
The images created by an array of artists light up the atmosphere to the delight of the viewers.
The one right behind me is Evening Passage, and basically it's telling a story of a young boy coming at the end of the day at work, and I wanted to capture that moment of him going home in a different perspective. The truth about it is we go about our day-to-days in our environment, and there are things that happen around us, people, things, day-to-day, and we get so lost in it. So my pieces in general are to capture the mundanes that exist in our environments and change your perspective and vision on how you see it, bring in a beautiful, surreal calmness and also ethereal feeling to each of the pieces.
Beyond this exhibition, mentorship, exhibition opportunities, and community building have been provided to connect artists with the audience.
Let's delve into the world of sports now. Nigeria's D Tigers are through to the quarterfinals in the FIBA Afrobasket in Luanda, Angola. The team sealed their spot in the final 8 of the competition, and that's after defeating Cameroon 99-90 in their final Group B game this evening. The victory was D Tigers' third in Group B, and that's after previously trashing Madagascar and defending champions Tunisia in the first 2 games. The team finished top of the group and will now meet the winners between South Sudan and Senegal, who will be playing a qualification match for the quarterfinals on Monday. Josh Okoje ends the game top performer for Nigeria with 16 points, 2 rebounds, and 7 assists. Kenya has confirmed their dominance in Group A of the African Nations Championship, and that's after a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Zambia at a packed Moi International Sports Center in Kasarani earlier today. Ryan Ogham's decisive strike midway through the second half ensured the Stars finished unbeaten at the summit of the group, while Zambia exited the competition without a single point. With Morocco now beating DR Congo 3-1 in the simultaneous fixture, both Kenya and Morocco progressed to the quarterfinals, leaving the Leopards stranded in the 3rd place. Arsenal's quest for Premier League glory got off to a winning start as Ricardo Califor's goal beat Manchester United 1-0. And that happened earlier today, while world champions Chelsea were lucky to escape a 0-0 draw against Crystal Palace. The Gunners were far from impressive at Old Trafford, but they earned a huge 3 points thanks to a glaring error from United's standing goalkeeper. At Stamford Bridge, the Eagles were denied an early opener when Eberichi Eze's free kick was ruled out by a VAR review for mark obstructing the Chelsea wall. For Nottingham Forest overran Brentford to begin their own Premier League campaign with a comfortable 3-1 win as Keith Andrews' reign as Bees boss got off on a good start. Away from sports, but outside our shores, the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says the Russian President Vladimir Putin has agreed to what he calls robust security guarantees for Ukraine, including a potential NATO-style defense arrangement. Without giving much detail, he really described this proposal as a game changer.
Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, was speaking to American media about the outcome of the Trump-Putin meeting on Friday. He said the Russian president had made some concessions around 5 key territory regions that had been heavily contested by Moscow, adding that Vladimir Putin had agreed to what he called robust security guarantees, calling these game-changing without confirming whether they will involve U.S. boots on the ground. Back in Moscow, the Russian president addressed a press briefing where he summarized results of the meeting in Alaska. According to him, it was both timely and very useful. All areas of cooperation was discussed, and the Ukraine crisis was discussed fairly. He says they took the opportunity to discuss the genesis, the origins of the crisis, and that the elimination of these root causes should form the basis of a settlement. He said the dialogue with Trump was frank and informative. The high-profile talks on Friday between President Trump and President Putin lasted more than 2.5 hours.
I'm very pleased to be here with you today.
In the meantime, European leaders and the Ukrainian president are preparing to meet with Trump at the White House on Monday. During a press conference on Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he remains in the dark about what was discussed between Trump and Putin in their high-profile meeting in Alaska. He said he wanted the U.S. president to share details with him and the European leaders. He doubted the Russian president will provide any security guarantees, but welcomed the U.S. decision to offer Ukraine security guarantees in the event of a peace deal with Russia. The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, who was also at the press briefing, addressed the issue of peace negotiations and ceasefire.
I think not the term is so important. Important is, and it matters, what's the effect. And the effect must be stop the killing. That's the most important part. Whether we call it a ceasefire or it's a peace deal, stop the killing. Point number one.
In another development, French President Emmanuel Macron told reporters on Sunday afternoon leaders headed to the White House on Monday must remind the U.S. president what unites the U.S., Ukraine and the EU, citing their shared desire for peace and for Russia to respect international law and territorial sovereignty. Attending Monday's meeting are leaders from the UK, Italy, Germany, Finland, France, NATO and the European Commission.
And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu has congratulated winners of Saturday's by-elections across 13 states. The president, in a message by his spokesman Bayo Onanuga, also commended the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for the hitch-free elections mostly devoid of violence. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Umawado. Good night and have a fruitful week ahead.